Welcome back to Deep Thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Adjust this mic here a little bit. So, let's see, about a week ago, probably not quite a week ago, I made an episode called Flat Earth Rage. And, it was okay. It was sort of based on I put a big part of it was based on that Polish astronaut that said the Earth was flat. And then I got to reading about that video, and I can't find the original interview, but several folks in the comment sections were like, well, if you watch the entire interview, he explains his entire mission, explains the Earth as a ball, and then according to the Polish citizens, they said what you're not able to hear through translation is his sarcasm and the final answer to the interview. Now, whether or not I can chime in on whether or not that's sarcastic or not, it's definitely not the way that Americans are sarcastic. You can chime in for your language if it's not Polish, because for me it seemed pretty legit. He seemed pretty weird after he said it, but I mean, if it's sarcasm and it's a joke, the dude is actually pretty damn funny. I mean, that's some pretty dry shit, man. I'm impressed. But now, I did an episode called How We Don't Think. And I actually did it quite a while ago and just recently released it. And I'm getting, obviously I get blowback when I really hit the flat earth thing on the nose. Whether I support it or don't support it, I have people who dislike my opinion either way. And this is what this episode's going to be about. It's going to be a redo of the other episode because I kind of, you think through things and you're talking live like I'm doing. And then I had my grand epiphany at the end, unfortunately. And so I'm going to put it at the beginning. I'm going to do an episode on the Russian KGB guy that defected by 1985 and came to the United States. He had defected before 1985, but he took this interview. I've mentioned him once before this season, and he ran down the line of how the Soviet Union was taking over the United States of America through cognitive dissonance techniques. And if he had told anyone that stuff, say even in 85, but definitely 20 years before they had started the program, no one would have believed that what he said in 85 could be true, let alone was true. Because he said, this is what we've already accomplished. The rest of it's going to go really easy. But the thing that has stuck in my head since I saw this interview, and I've seen it 3 or 4 times now. Again, just look up KGB defector 1985, and you'll see this dude with glasses sitting on a chair in like a 1985 camera. It's nice and snowy resolution. And you owe it to yourself to watch that thing all the way through. If I can remember, I'll put it in the comment section down below in the description, right? But this dude was 1,000% correct. The world that we have today is incapable of believing the truth even when they're told it. Now, I will just say it like that so that you can apply your version of the truth and you can't necessarily easily get angry at me about it, right? Oh, but I know you can. But here's the epiphany that really, and this is no epiphany to average philosophy of freedom and the sovereignty of humanity. But you know that there are a few people in this world who run the joint. They control the money. And as soon as they controlled the money, they controlled everyone, because it takes 2 minutes to find a sellout. A Nadler, a Pelosi, a Schiff, a Maxine Waters. I mean, one shill after another, someone who will sell out their entire race specifically so that they can, get a beach house or whatever it is. Status, because their poor little souls need, to be told they're amazing every single day, even if it's a fraudulent claim. They're like, I didn't really do that, but it feels good to do it. Be told that I did it, right? So there's a few that run the world. And then you have the rest of us, the 99.9% of the world. There's not 1% that runs the world. That's way too much. There's 1% that perhaps are the really rich people that we all want to hate and steal their money, even legitimate business owners who have worked really hard. There's Miss Possum. I just think that whole thing of like, let's tax billionaires 100%, or someone who's worked really hard doesn't deserve to have their money. Now, I will tell you from experience and watching these people with tremendous amounts of money, one, I've rarely seen anyone like that happy. Two, you really don't need that much money. Anything you can conceive of, you can build it yourself, have it yourself. Maybe, the thing is, if you're going to build like the next Titanic, or you're going to build some spaceship or something, you can get people to help you finance it. That's what capitalism's all about. You can't afford to pay for your dream, or you don't want to give up your entire life savings for a risk, so you bring other people in and they help finance it. That's what capitalism is. That's all it is. But together, we can conquer these folks. Divided, they can pick us off one by one. And we are in the center of this movement to divide us all. Now, we can debate all day, NASA being a fraudulent organization. We know that at least a giant portion of their history, their claims to fame, have all been faked. Okay. Touché. I'm right there, man. I'm the moon guy on YouTube, man. I think the guy that's definitely outdone me for moon videos by count is Bart Sabrell. But I may even eclipse Bart for total minutes dedicated to this subject matter of we did not go to the moon. But now we have a bunch of new ones, right? We've got the acidic ones that the fake news will talk about. Antifa, Black Lives Matters, all the LGBT, XYZ, PDQ stuff. Kids, 7 years old, trying to get sexual reassignment surgery. I mean, oh my God. It's fucking insane. That's all it is. And I've got LGB friends that don't agree with that at all. I mean, and they don't agree that kids should be messed up with. They don't believe that kids should be taught in school anything about their sexuality. Just leave them alone. Let them figure it out. If anything, get them super educated. Hopefully their parents are employed and happy and not having to work 2 or 3 jobs so that they don't have any parental guidance on their, on their behalf. But the flat earth thing and the round globe thing is sort of this weird thing. RT.com, the Russian television thing, that's not what it stands for, I don't think, but I can see the words that they type. I just don't know what the hell they mean. But anyway, they published an article about how good the flat earth movement was for science. Now, they immediately attached to it climate change and a bunch of other crap, so it was a very globalist sort of deep state article. RT is just as deep state as Fox News, as CNN, all these organizations are. Now, you guys know what I've said. I've done whole episodes on the fact that I think that flat earth is great for the scientific community, even if you don't believe it's true. And the number one reasons is that, okay, you're so sure it's a globe. You've never been in space. You've never seen Earth from space. Every single picture of Earth from space has been proven an absolute forgery. And as a matter of fact, there's a NASA.gov video of the last kid that did the blue marble shot, explaining how he did it with composite shots of Earth. And he said the famous phrase, "It's a composite. It has to be." All right. You're so sure it's a globe? Again, my whole thing is I believe in expanding Earth, plasma ball core to Earth, and it's all fueled by ethereal winds. It's one unified theory. It explains gravity. It explains the core of the Earth having a magnetic center, unlike nickel iron that loses its magnetism a few thousand degrees Celsius. It's done. Okay. Here's what surprises me. And I've explained this over the course of 5 years. I've got 2 friends of mine that when I talked about the flat earth thing, one of them got just really upset that anyone would ever insinuate that. He just could not let the conversation complete a sentence. My other buddy was just, come on, don't be that guy. And so I don't understand it. I don't know about you, but there's only a limited amount of interesting things going on in the world at any one point in time. It's not entirely acidic, right? Yeah, they're doing this bullshit impeachment thing on Trump. Love or hate the guy. Here's the thing. If you were ever in a court with Adam Schiff running your legal justice system, you would be guilty because he decided you were guilty. He's judge and jury. He erases the Constitution. He erases due process. Is that the world you want to live in? Really? I don't give a shit if you're a Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian, or whatever. Every molecule in your body should be against things like that, where they're in pursuit of a crime. Let's just have a bunch of hearings until we have we find something we don't like, then we'll drum it up. That's the acidic world. Now, I'm going to talk about that because I just got a comment today where someone said, I was talking about the Being Psychic video. One of the comments said, come on, man, this stuff is legit. By the way, why don't you talk about what's going wrong with the world? I'm like, man, is this your first day on Deep Thoughts? We got Agenda 21. We have the California fires. We have the growing divide. I mean, I've got dozens and dozens of videos on those topics. That's unfortunately, got some doom and gloom in them if we don't change our ways. So to that listener, hang in there, look around. They're there. I just gave you a few. But for the life of me, if I had a gun against my head and someone said, explain to me why people get so vehemently angry at either globers or flat earthers, I'd make something up to stay alive, but I really wouldn't intimately understand it at all. It's almost like pedophilia. I don't get it. How do people cross that line? We have a fun thing going on here, man. Get into it. If you're a glober, man, I think one of the greatest buddy-buddy movies that could be written right now in Hollywood would be two kids. I don't care how old they are. One's a glober, one's a flat earther. They still love each other because they're best friends, and they end up helping each other try and prove each other's theory. Now, I do want to correct something that I've been citing in episodes because my buddy who's a flat earther pulled up this app on his iPad that's called the Flat Earth Clock. It's a beautiful application. Definitely wanted to run on a tablet. iPad looks amazing. But it's every day. You bring it up and it shows exactly where the moon is, exactly where the Earth is, and what time of day it is. Because I flew from Los Angeles to Sydney, and it was like 12 to 14 hours somewhere, and I can't remember. But it wasn't like an all-day trip. And so I cited that to him. I said, well, I went to Sydney, blah, 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 blah. And a guy in the room with me had lived in Australia for several years. And my buddy looked at me like I was a moron. He goes, yeah, that's no big deal. He brings up this flat earth clock thing on his iPad. And he goes, look, he has this damn near straight line. What's the problem? He goes, what you can't do is fly from the tip of South America over to Australia in a straight line. That's too far on the flat earth disc. And he showed it to me and I was like, oh yeah, okay. I've definitely not made that trip. Don't know if anyone has. But now technically, it's not a tremendous difference between Los Angeles. I mean, yes, the tip of South America, I believe, is in Eastern time. But it should be possible, but not on a flat earth, man. That would be such a massive trip around the outer edge of this disc. So perhaps even my little, I'm so sure it's a globe thing isn't proving anything, right? But now, as I always cite, and I won't go into it, but I'm an expanding earth guy. Go look it up, Neil Adams, Expanding Earth. Let me know what you think. It's pretty freaking conclusive to me. I've showed it to so many of my friends who are still globers. They never even heard about flat earth when I showed it to them. I hadn't heard about flat earth when I showed it to them. One of my most brilliant friends, he's a famous actor, comedian from the UK. He looked at it and he was like, well, that is pretty conclusive or pretty convincing or something like that. And I was like, yeah, right. I'm not trying to sway you either way. It's just, that's what it is, right? But now imagine, I always talk about this fictitious Deep Thoughts university that I would love to create, right? And it has official science with a capital S being scrutinized in one side of the campus, very quickly we would announce that the Big Bang didn't happen, that dark matter doesn't exist, and black holes probably don't exist either. And we'd reintroduce ether and get everyone back on the right track, right? But over on the other side of the campus, we are going to definitely be looking at the more existential things. We'd look at the law of attraction. We'd look at whether or not there's a soul. And we'd probably have on that other side flat earth research. We'd funnel billions of dollars into this university, and we would pay for expeditions to prove things one way or the other. Now imagine, we're talking paranormal, psychic capabilities, telekinesis would be researched, trying to see ghosts would be researched, and it would be researched not only with folks with massive educations in this, but also just normal people with great experiences, all coming together to take it seriously. And the admission board would not necessarily be looking at your grades to see if you can get into this thing. They'd have you give some sort of dissertation about what you're interested in doing. Just speak to us. If you're better writing it down, write it down on a piece of paper. Give us a book report. And then we would decide whether or not, you wrote it yourself or you stole someone else's materials. But once you have the open-mindedness to get in the school, you could get in the school. But one of the other things would be to have, once you're on the campus, and I've been very flippant about how stupid certain theories are that, for me, the Big Bang is just dumb as hell and da-da-da-da. But on the campus, we'd have to draw out our emotions, our subjectiveness, and keep an open mind for pretty much anything. But we would be trying to come to a sort of a conclusion of what rings true with the research that we have. What theories can survive a physical model theory. We'd pay for software to be written to have maybe some off-the-shelf stuff like Mathematica. We do engineering software and completely simulate NASA's claim of going to the moon. We'd find out there's so many unknown variables going to the moon, we probably couldn't actually complete the mission, but we'd try. But now here's the one thing that would keep you out of the college. You go in there and you're like, I want to be a flat earth researcher. And they say, great, we have a whole division. X number of people, X number of millions of dollars, if not tens of millions of dollars, plus we have an expedition that will be leaving in 8 months. You can get on that project, depending on your background. Let's say you're an air conditioning heating guy, but you're a flat earther. Well, we need those resources to complete our mission in the South Pole. Awesome. Now, if you come in and you say, those fucking globers, fuck those motherfuckers and blah, 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 and everyone over there is stupid, being explicit for a reason, you wouldn't get let in the campus because you got anger management issues against an opposing theory. Even if you're right, you don't have the right frame of mind to be in a research project. You don't have the right frame of mind to touch the globe wall. Or the dome wall, excuse me. Wouldn't that suck? And if you came in and you're a glober and you're like, look, well, here's the thing. I understand that people have looked at all these different experiments, and there's some really clever ones out there, and they're probably not trying to deceive anything. They're just trying to get to the bottom of the shape of the Earth. We're going to pay for a launch of a rocket. It's only going to have our equipment on it, not even a human being. And we're going to push it 80 to 100 miles in the sky. And we're going to see if this thing is a disc with upturned edges or if this thing is a ball floating in space. And if we can do it, if it's possible, we're going to send it into high orbit and we're going to test the Van Allen belts. If it's possible, we'll try to send the rocket completely out of Earth's orbit and take a picture looking back. And if it's possible, we'll go to the moon and land a rover. You see how that goes? It's nice. It's exciting. If you listen to Science with a capital S, you should be bored to death. Well, we've been to the moon, we've been to Mars, we've been to Jupiter, we've been to the We've flown by Saturn. We've even flown by Pluto, which has Pluto's face on it. We've landed on Titan. Unbelievable what we've done. Boy, we've landed on Venus. I mean, it's like, geez, I think, as far as things that NASA hasn't done is, I think, found Superman's lair up in the North Pole and Santa Claus living around the corner. I think the Tooth Fairy's on their staff, right? It's unbelievable. So, I want us to get along a hell of a lot better. Just like Rodney King said, I don't understand the rage, man. Now, here's some things that I think that kind of enter the rage realm. But it's not us yelling at each other. And I can't say I've ever seen this particular secondary topic turn into any rage between us at all, ever in the comments. Maybe it's happened, but I've never seen it. And that is the politicians that have infiltrated the United States of America on behalf of Europe, on behalf of Agenda 21, to destroy America, to destroy the Constitution. We now have Hillary Clinton on camera, calling the Constitution some washed up old rag that was written in the 1800s. Or sorry, the 18th century, 1700s, right? Wow. And this person has the audacity to run for president? Hey, man, it looks like you're a member of a different country. And you need to find that South American country with all the dictators, right? Isn't it funny? I think this is hilarious. They keep calling Trump the dictator. He has a lot of dictator friends. It's like, no, he knows he's got to talk to everybody in the world if he's going to know what the hell's going on. If he wants some of this chaos to stop, he has to have a relationship with Kim Jong-un. He does. But the people that are saying that he's like a big dictator lover are the closest things we have to dictators. But their dictation is a little bit different. Instead of having Lord Rothschild do it, or the Queen of England do it, or some other banker somewhere, what they're trying to do is install a totalitarian globalism on top of humanity that will run the entire world, which will eventually most likely turn into an artificial intelligence that will run the whole world. Mankind will not make any more decisions for mankind. You'll have to ask for permission to walk down the street. You'll have to ask for permission to have a child. Most likely have to ask for permission to get a partner and have sex. And there's probably death penalties around every single corner if you happen to violate those rules. And in terms of 99.9% of the world's population, it's all going to be erased as soon as they get control. If you think that's crazy, then you know fuck all about Agenda 21. And you need to get updated super duper fast. I live in a state where the Agenda 21 Democrats are trying to destroy everything that was wonderful about California. It has taken nearly 20 years for everyone to figure out how California is being attacked. Because I got here when it was a red state. And it was the dreamy California, man. I mean, it was everything that everyone had ever rumored California to be. And sure, there's always that little devil-worshipping sect somewhere, the porn thing in Simi Valley at the time, where people are hooked on drugs and being extorted for sex, for drugs. Yeah, there's always some shitty little part of everything. But for the most part, I came here and the single-income household still existed where I lived. It was awesome. But everything that could happen was happening. Women were getting jobs a lot earlier. Men were successful. I didn't see any of this ass-grabbing stuff that's, the Me Too thing. I'm sure it happened. But I was very fortunate to work for a company with a female CEO. My first 2 companies I worked for had female CEOs, just back to back. Only when I got in the video game business for my first year and a half was there a all-guy company. But then again, back in the day, women didn't do any of that stuff, where now they do great work. It's like the amount of female artists and game designers and programmers, they're amassing. It's really cool. But they're trying to drive up taxes as fast as they possibly can. They're running down all of our cities, Los Angeles and San Francisco. They're trying to destroy that. They make opening an LLC, C Corp or S Corp in California extremely expensive. The penalties for everything are super high. Your property tax is super high. Your sales tax is relatively high. They're trying to destroy the state. And now people are starting to be able to have the conversation. Don't you remember what it was like 20 years ago? Yeah, fucking weird, right? 30 years ago? I guess it's taken 30 years. I'm sorry. Yeah, because it'd be pretty much the 90s when they lost out. Got some blue in here. Good old Jerry Brown. That guy's been, was the governor off and on forever. But the state voted blue for or red for a president, If they divide us, they get to pick us off. Just imagine, the old pie chart thing, right? You got a circle, and that's the majority of all of us. Little tiny dot, infinitesimal dot, is the folks that are in control because we allow them to be in control, which we need to change that in a really big way. Term limits for House and Senate representatives give you the equivalent of 8 years. So you can get, as a senator, you get 4 instead of 6. As a House representative, you get 2, and you can have 4 re-elections. Then c'est la vie. We'll see you later, man. And you can't be a lobbyist. By law. One of the first things Trump put in place. It's a beautiful thing. But so, I'm thinking about how did this get so acidic? And there's a listener of the show, Jed, from Scotland, Glasgow. And he has a very eccentric channel. He and I met through my old show, MK Ultra Radio. And I think Jed was on it really fast. And I'm not sure. I'm going to connect dots. I think that he connected for me. Whether or not he connected them, he probably connected them way harder than I did. But he started watching, the flat earth thing. And I'm pretty sure he's globe earth. But he started watching how the organizations that represented flat earth went completely bonkers. And it angered him because it was like it just showed that they had basically infiltrated that movement. I mean, he did videos on a couple guys that, he did one on a group where they would do like these live chats for 4 or 5 hours, if not more. And they talked about how they were drinking their urine and, if you like doing that, you just do that. I'm not criticizing, but, what the fuck does that have to do with flat earth? Nothing, right? One guy who's got like tattoos all over his body with all this Illuminati symbolism. And I mean, wow, it's like, you can do Satanistic stuff all over your body. You could do Illuminati stuff all over your body. Same shit, okay? And this guy was trying to talk like he wasn't a part of all this. It's almost like me tattooing myself with Satanistic crap and then being against the Church of Satan on a video. Like, what? I mean, black all that crap out. Redo all your tattoos. Get them all removed. Whatever you got to do. Or at least every single show come out and say, okay, guys, here's the thing. I used to be a Satanist, and now I have all tattoos on my body. It was a dumb thing I did, but blah, 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 right? Do full disclosure, disclaimer, but that guy didn't do that. And so all these internet fights started occurring. I don't think I've ever been implicated in anyone's videos in a negative way. I suspect that would happen or has happened. I just haven't seen the video. But I would never get involved in some pissing match with somebody online. I don't give a shit if they hate everything I ever do. I don't care if I make a video and they make a counter video. I don't care. Knock yourself out, man. You have the right to your opinion. And you know what? I'm open-minded enough that maybe you're right. I'm not going to waste any of my life looking at those videos. But, if somebody said, oh, this one sentence at 10 minutes in seems legit, seems like you were wrong. Yeah, I might click over and link in and look at it and give it my objective analysis and then agree or disagree. I don't know. But we know for a fact, okay, that the groups that initially came out in 2014 were really pure at the beginning. Your Eric Dubé's. And then it got weird. And so a lot of people see that as, okay, there's a bunch of shilly organizations out there trying to attach crazy to flat earth so it never goes anywhere. When what's so strange is, and it's like, again, like my sympathy and empathy for the flat earth movement as a whole is a couple fold. The first one is I see a bunch of people with an open mind, especially the ones that don't criticize. I have more in common with them and just going, that's cool, man. You keep going, because I want you to go to the South Pole with some jet, some G6 jet, and get permission just to fly over it. Maybe you go down and you join some volunteer project. Again, I got a friend of mine and she spent several weeks down there, and she's like, dude, it's a continent, man. But when I said, did you ever fly over it? No, I didn't fly over it. But, they bring in supplies from all different sides of the continent, and they can drive them around and get them to each other. And if it was this big outer, ice barrier, then that would be technically impossible. These vehicles are run out of fuel. The planes couldn't get from one airport to the other without, flying along the edge, and you'd have to have a lot of refueling going on. So she's pretty convinced because she went down there. I was referred to a guy that said that he and his wife went down there. He was a scientist, and she's a scientist too, my other friend. But he said he went down there, and most definitely, I don't even know if he knew anything about the flat earth, but the first question I asked him was, did you ever fly over the continent? No. You're not allowed to do that or whatever. Now, I don't know if planes have issues flying over that. I don't know. Seems like the air is super cold straight up above me, right? Way up there, it's cold. But I don't know. So the other big bummer about this for me is that, okay, so you have two camps, flat earth over here and globe over here. Okay. And nothing changes the fact that the flat earth clock application has reconciled the placement of the sun, the placement of the moon, and overall hasn't had any problems predicting what flights are impossible and flights are possible and the paths that they might take. And when taken from the flat model and stretched out over the globe, it's the exact same paths because they're straight lines on the disk and they're round arches on the surface of a globe. All right. But over here on the globe side, your proof of being in a ball is all conjecture and lies from space organizations. Okay, and that's bona fide, man. That's certified. You have been utterly lied to. You're so sure what's on the inside of the Earth? Well, you can't. It's not nickel iron. It can't be. It doesn't survive chemistry. Okay, big fucking lie there. You think they went to the moon? Let's just say. Doesn't mean you have to believe we went to the moon. Well, we can't. We haven't. That's why all the rovers are over on Mars and not on the moon, looking at our old kickstands from the Apollo, lunar landers. They're not there. That's why they can't be there. And they could try to fake it in CG, but how are you going to account for the fact that they reused two sets in two different missions? How are you going to account for the fact that the blue marble shot brought back from Apollo 17 has a completely screwed up Red Sea? And then it was fixed randomly on time and reissued. And I got the picture before and after, which I'll show in this video. So one group has a bunch of lies that have been handed to them by the space organizations. And the other group is just constructing things, and they're getting some things right and getting some things wrong. So they're trying. But in terms of the foundation of either one of these organizations, hey, I think it's a ball. I think it's expanding Earth. I think it's ethereal winds and blah, 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 plasmic core and all that stuff. Okay, great. I don't need any of NASA's crap to have my belief system. Because, the ball thing for me is that all the continents connect on all sides. And people have said, well, don't you think that could happen on the flat Earth? And I'm like, I'm waiting. Do it. Explain it to me. Why? How could that possibly work on a disk? The disk is so utterly massive that it makes no sense unless the disk is growing in size. But does it really all come together on all sides if you just crush the disk down? I don't think so, because the outer edge of the continents that would touch the outer edge of the ice or the disk, well, and the expanding Earth model connects on all sides. What are the odds? Come on. But okay. And here's the other one. Globers. Do you believe that aliens exist? And do you believe aliens have ever come to Earth? And do you think Roswell ever happened? Do you think that all this recent footage that's being disclosed from all the different military organizations are real? All right. Let's say you answered yes. And I'm with you on some of that stuff. Well, think about how much actual proof you have that any of this stuff is real. Now, if you do your research on the Roswell confessions of all these people that knew everyone in Roswell that were murdered, as well as the old man that recovered, or at least met the alien, and then his interview way after the fact, like 40 years after the fact, you just got to listen to all these folks. They'll tell you that these people changed their stories, and if you watch every single interview you can get your hands on, you'll realize they never changed their stories. They were completely right, so you've been lied to by those people. Okay. But we believe in things without having proof sometimes. So why is it that a globe person can believe in something without a bunch of evidence that's in your tangible hands, right? But your flat earthers are not allowed to believe in anything, and there they are shooting lasers across, frozen lakes in Russia that are like 400 miles long. You're able to see things. There is refraction in the atmosphere, of course, which might account for being able to see certain things. But you got the Statue of Liberty that's viewable from 60 miles away. Things that should be 2,000 feet over the edge of the earth, you can still see it. Maybe there's a little bit of refraction, but we know the refraction of the atmosphere. It's measurable. That's a given fact. The kid that does the really cool experiment where he shows the sun setting on a tabletop just through a lens. It's a tabletop. He has the sun on a little L-shaped piece of paper, and he's got the lens with the exact same refraction of the atmosphere, and he pulls it back, and the sun gets smaller and smaller, and then, in the refraction, which is a water refraction off the ocean, it actually expands and sets just like it does on the ocean. All right. Now, maybe that's a coincidence to reality. Maybe not. But it's right there in front of your face. Can't you have an open mind to allow these people to have that thought? Can you explain to me how the moon, of which Plato supposedly wrote, or at least read texts, the time before the moon, like it didn't exist and all of a sudden existed? Well, how does the moon perfectly eclipse the sun? Tell me that. This random thing out there in space, which doesn't have any geographical similarity with Earth, right? Supposedly it's this rock that hit the Earth and it blew up the Earth and the Earth spit off some shit. I mean, they just made a fucking theory, drew a funny picture. They've done several animations of it now. And people are swallowing this. I saw their simulation. They showed me and they took a picture when it happened, It's like, dude, it ain't real. They just sold you a picture, right? But this thing is like white as a ghost up there. There's scientists that say, look, if that thing had the refraction that it's supposed to, it would light up the Earth, just like daytime, if it was up there. Basically saying if you could ever see the moon at night, the Earth would be lit on that side. Some people say it's a plasma ball and you can't land on it. Interesting. Some people say it's an old sun. Well, we know all the craters can't be all craters because they're all perfectly round. Anything just randomly hitting the surface of a ball flying in space would have a bunch of elliptical shapes. It'd have some round ones too, but most of them would probably be less than round, like way less than round. But this ball perfectly eclipses during a solar eclipse. If you're staying in that one place, and which I think is once every 27 years, you can look up and see one wherever you are on the Earth. This 93 million mile away gigantic furnace in space is somehow perfectly eclipsed by this random ball that's in an elliptical orbit. It's in an elliptical orbit, they tell us. Okay, it's elliptical. Well, then sometimes it should completely blot out the sun to the point there's no ring of fire, and it should totally undercut the sun, and there would be a ring the entire time. It wouldn't completely eclipse the sun because it's too far away. But it does. The same thing every single time. The other thing is that we always see the same side of the moon. And, hey, it's in this locked orbit around us. We're told that crap when we're kids. We're like, yeah, that's awesome. But okay, so man has been here for quite a while. You realize if the moon had an infinitesimal rotational difference and its speed to lock to Earth, we would start seeing in our lifetime, over a couple thousand years, a different region of the moon would start showing itself every time at full moon. It'd be just a pixel or so on the side that'd be unique. There's mysteries everywhere. But if we're going to have, shit fits, and, basically it's like walking in a room and going, you can't think that. Why can't I think that? Well, because that makes me angry. Well, why does it make you angry? Because I believe something different. Oh, wow. So that's the precedence we want to set in the world, okay? So you believe that Allah is God. You believe Jesus is God. This other dude believes that Buddha is God, and it's just like some other dude thinks that they're God. What do we fight it out until, whoever was a bigger guy gets to decide what everyone else believes, and then whoever's left who's like cowarding down because they're like, man, don't kill me, man. They have to believe what you believe? Is that the world you want to live in? Sure as fuck isn't the one I want to live in. It's like, I'll put it to you this way. Different way of thinking about it. If you've ever wanted to be like a cool human, right? Sort of, I don't know, any definition you might have of that. You want to be cool. You want to be relaxed, right? All right. Doesn't mean there's not something that could piss you off. Someone's betraying you. Someone's betrayed a friend. Someone's hurting someone. Yeah, you're not going to just be totally cool in every situation. Even Clint Eastwood got a little pissed off and unforgiven, right? You just shot an unarmed man. You should decorate his place with my best friend. God damn, it was a good line. Or decorate him with my friend. Well, being really angry about flat Earth, that didn't seem very cool to me. Being really angry at globers the other way, because you got to have it on both sides, right? Doesn't seem very cool to me. Now, you can speak your opinion and be firm about your opinion. Say, I just think it's bullshit. Oh, you're not getting angry. You're just basically saying, I think the Big Bang's a bunch of bullshit. They've told me my whole life, when I got into cosmology super deep as a kid, physics breaks down before the Big Bang occurs. But they always told you, well, we're figuring it out, which means we're making it up. Well, it's 35, 40 years later, and that physics problem has never been solved. All right. You know why? Because people are willing to believe things if they can usurp that moment and usurp that claim to feel intelligent. Now, I'm in a very distinct position in my life to be very excited about flat Earth. And for those of you who are different ages, I would say that I don't know what the cutoff is, but I think it has to do with your life experience. But when you've lived a lot of life, like I have, at least for my money, I've lived a lot of life, had a lot of careers, just been some places. It's really, I'm good. The idea that someone, especially from this show, as far as the listeners, which I call you like mini scientists, right? If you were able to, I don't know, you got a rich uncle and you just haven't brought up flat Earth to your uncle, or you inherit a bunch of money and you actually have diplomatic relations and you can get into that little treaty down there that they signed in 1954 to get all the countries to say no one's allowed at the South Pole unless you get permission. Somehow you can break through all that red tape and you're going to fly maybe an unmanned drone over the South Pole to come out the other side. You put two people where you think that, you're going to send it this way and it's going to come out over here. And you go off and do it, and it crashes into the dome wall. Just like the Encyclopedia Britannica said, 1958 or something like that. All right. That thing crashes live on the internet, streaming. Wouldn't that be just an awesome boost to your life? Maybe if you're in your teens and your 20s and you kind of want the world to hold together as a society because you got some dreams and you can see how you're going to do it and you know all the little steps, and if they prove the world is flat and God's on the other side, it's going to make things a little strange, or there's aliens somewhere, or the dome owners come racing in to reset the planet and flood the whole joint. Maybe you're not looking forward to that. But at my age, with my experience, it seems awesome. It seems so, so awesome to have someone prove this thing is a flat disk in space, that this is some sort of matrix, this is some sort of contact lens that we're living inside of. I don't know about you, but that seems so awesome. So exciting. Think about the frontier of science. Think about any one of you that believes it's a globe and you don't think we went to the moon. All right. How are you going to ever get NASA to tell the truth? Donald Trump walks up and talks about how we went to the moon. Complete bullshit. I don't know why the guy does it. Maybe he's calling their bluff by supporting them. He did send a tweet out when Nancy Pelosi remained the House Majority Leader. He sent her a tweet out saying, "I'm so glad that Nancy Pelosi got that. Now she's just continued to be a a thorn in his side, right?" Here comes the helicopter. So maybe it's the same thing. He's just telling NASA, hey, let's go to the moon, and that's why they announced the 2024 mission. And, he's going to call their bluff. He's saying, oh, yeah, you went to the moon? All right, let's do it. I'm right here. Show me. I think you're lying, but I'll support you until you fail. But now imagine this. The flat earthers prove it. I don't know how they do it, but they prove it. 100%. So the second the drone hits the dome wall, NASA is punched. Their ticket is punched. The whole world knows that everybody lied. Now, maybe you can go up in orbit and you end up doing the circle that the moon and the sun is doing, right? How awesome is that? I mean, you wouldn't want that to happen. I think that, for me, it's like this. To the degree that I want a flying saucer to land in a baseball field in Washington, D.C., just like the day the Earth stood still, 1951, I want someone to prove this place is a dome. Because my own mind would just blow, right? I'm convinced it's a ball. The moon is a ball. The sun is a ball. All those planets are balls. Even the weird starry things that Dave keeps recording, which is one of our moderators, he hits it with this super zoom 1000x zoom camera. It looks like plasma on some type of sphere. Bubbles in water, all that good stuff. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that happens. Doesn't matter what you see. Doesn't matter that eclipses and lunar eclipses and solar eclipses are all around. Doesn't matter. There was the dome. There's the mark right there where the drone left some of its debris stuck to the wall right there. And we're right here now. We're at the dome wall. We've driven a bunch of vehicles directly to the dome wall, and people are like writing their name on the wall with their fingers, right? It's some, Game of Thrones thing. Isn't it funny that Game of Thrones tended to create the whole flat earth model, that big ice shield that's down there, right? It's just cool. Like, how can you not get excited about the notion? And then how can you not fuel your buddy who believes completely opposite of what you fuel, right? You're into space travel, standard straight up SpaceX is all legit and everything's great, and we're got a space station up there and all that footage that's got wires and blue screen and augmented reality crap that we've proven. The guy flying with the harness behind the two astronauts that are doing the interview, I mean, straight up Hollywood harness. I showed this to so many of my special effects buddies, and they were just like, we use those on set. What the fuck is it doing in the ISS? And I'm like, I don't know, you tell me. And they're just like, oh my God, this is all a lie. You show experts, man, and they know more about it than you do, and they give it up. I mean, they give up believing in it. And some of these kids are like worse than me. They were mega uber science geeks when they were kids. I mean, I was a pretty damn good science geek, but they just have their hearts broken. All right. I don't know how you couldn't be excited. And it'd be one of two things, right? Let's say you're a pissed off glober. All right. Okay, so if you're pissed off glober, there's a couple things you'd probably want to have change in the world. One, you never want to hear a flat earther talk again about flat earth. So you are going to have to go to your space agencies and say, look, NASA, stop faking pictures of Earth from space, would you? We need a legitimate shot of Earth from space, not your space station with all the fish lines crap and all your bubbles flying around and et cetera, et cetera. By the way, there's a new piece of software that was advertised on one of the news networks. It was an AP Reuters article, I think. New software removes water from underground shots. And they show this coral reef at the bottom of the ocean with obviously all the distortion of water in the blue. And then they showed a half and half of the software being run. And I'm telling you, it looked like it was just sitting in a field. Well, wow. Where do you think that software got developed? And why would it have been developed? Of course, there's, plenty of deep sea researchers that could use it. But if you're filming the ISS exterior spacewalks in water, that piece of software would be awesome, wouldn't it? It would remove all distortion and make it look like it was in where? Outer space. Except there's no stars. There's no Milky Way. The immutable Milky Way that's so damn bright it's ridiculous. It's bright when you're in the middle of like Havasu or in the middle of a field somewhere with no light pollution. It's just, to mix metaphors, deafeningly bright, right? And now you're in space with no atmosphere distortion, no light distortion, or no light interference of any kind, and you're not seeing anything. Give me a break. Give me a break. So helping your friend get to the end of his flat earth journey by supporting your friend is what you want to do. Buy a gyroscope. I keep telling you guys this, right? Buy a gyroscope from some salvage yard of planes. Like, go to a salvage yard in your local area, do a GoFundMe. I'm sure you could make the money in 2 seconds. Let's say it costs $50,000. I bet you'd raise 100. You say, look, I need to. Let's say it's inside some dashboard of some old Cessna plane. It's 30, 40 years old, but fully functional. You find a good one, right? You call the salvage yard and you say, do you have a functional gyroscope? Yeah. All right. So what do you want for it? $5,000? All right, great. Now you're going to have to take it somewhere to make sure that it's functional. And then you go buy a ticket on a plane, or you charter a plane, because you don't have some bullshit, TSA telling you can't take it on a plane because you clamber someone on the head with it or whatever. But you just tell them, look, it's a scientific experiment. The whole internet's watching. Charter yourself a private plane. I want you to just do this flight. We have a couple people in Canada who are hot on flat Earth, and one of them is trying to pull this off. I'll make sure they're nameless for now. But let's fund them. They get it. They get it engineered by some scientists locally to make sure it's powered up and running. And it should spin directly perpendicular to the Earth in, say, Ontario. Then you buy a flight to the southern tip of Florida. Now, you don't have to go to South America and go through other issues, but if you could go to Mexico City, it'd be awesome, right? And all you're going to do is land, maybe get off and do some lunch in the terminal, get back on the return flight and come back. But here's your flat Earth proof. It's perpendicular to Ontario. If it's a flat Earth and you go all the way to Mexico City, it still should be flat, perpendicular to your lap. But if it's a round ball, it should rotate quite a bit, probably over 45 degrees. Take a picture the whole way, and you'll know you're on a ball or you're on a flat disc. All right, it would be over. Now, we'd have to then, if let's say we prove it's a ball, then we'd have to explain all the other anomalies we're seeing. Things far away still showing up in cameras, sea level, right? Pylons on bridges that should be hundreds, if not thousands of feet below the horizon on the other side. Well, maybe we have refraction wrong. Who knows? But at least we can make some progress, get to the bottom of it. But now here's the thing, Globers. What if this dude lands in Mexico City and that thing is straight as an arrow, perpendicular to the ground? Now it's a disc. Now what you gonna do? Even I, sitting here with my expanding Earth theory, would have to essentially say, okay, if it is flat, then someone has worked extremely hard to make it appear as if we're on a globe. It still negates everything that NASA's lied about. And even if I can't explain it, what I would probably do, to be honest with you, is I would adopt the theory that's very simple. I would simply say that whoever made this place was trying to give us the illusion that we're some insignificant ball in space, probably not to make us feel insignificant as beings, but to make us focus on ourselves, as opposed to worshiping some supreme being and losing everything that is the human condition. That makes reasonable sense to me. And you know what? I would probably be floating on cloud nine for months and months and months, if not the rest of my life, that it is a very designed location, regardless of who made it. You know, my hope would be, I had to be careful with what I say here, because I don't know if I want to get everything I'm asking for at this point. I would say this. If finding the dome wall en masse, right? The whole world hears about this story. It's a sensation all over the internet, and we publish the recipe to buy a gyroscope, to retrofit it to work in your lap, and we start talking about tickets all over the place. People in London fly to Cairo. Someone in northern Russia flies to southern India, or whatever. Someone from the tip of South America flies to Mexico City as well. We teach everyone how to do it. It is absolutely confirmed that this is a flat disc. Well, maybe discs still out there, but then we started getting the extra funding to go to the wall to find the all that stuff, right? Okay. If finding out that it's a dome en masse causes them to reset the interior of this place, then I probably don't want that to occur, right? I want all little kids of the world to grow up and have wonderful lives. I don't want some asshole alien coming in here and fucking everything up. Now, then there's the more spiritual, super celestial sort of end game, which is it's all been a test by God for us to discern our reality and to see if in mass what happens when you get your whole reality swapped out for a different one, right? Now, what's funny about it is that up until 500 years ago, roughly, the whole world thought it was flat, and everybody continued living. No big deal. But the big deal today is that we now have technology that we didn't have 500 years ago to go to the wall and knock on it. Is anybody there? Is anybody there? So, if aliens are friendly, and they're coming in and going, okay, you now get to partake of our technology. You now get to learn about where you are. Just like First Contact in Star Trek, you hit warp and here comes the Vulcans, right? All right. I dig that idea. But if God comes down here and, now he's involved and he's like, look, this was the test and you have to, you can live inside or not live inside. And I take that. But knowing that God exists is a really, hi, how you doing? I'm George Burns. I'm actually God, If that were to ever occur, then mankind loses free will. Just like every sociological experiment on planet Earth, we no longer behave properly because we are now observed. And so there has to be, on their behalf, either aliens or God. I trust God way more than aliens. But they'd have to have, or he would have to have, a part 2 of our development. Do we all just die and go into soul world? Does Jesus walk in? Hey, buddy, what's up? So I've never heard it postulated ever. And I'm sure it has been, I guess, of people just logical thinkers. But the idea is that what if the people that know, that went down there in the 30s and perhaps met the people that made the dome, they're not God. They're, doesn't mean God doesn't exist. It just means he didn't personally make this joint. They meet the programmers that make the Matrix happen. They meet the aliens that built a place together, whatever we're doing here, right? Let's say it's a dome. Okay, flat Earth. But they had this all explained to them. Okay, here's the deal. We're running an experiment. Maybe the aliens look just like us. They're like, you're part of us. But we really wanted to know, because we're millions of years old on our side. On the other side of this dome, we're millions of years old. And, the truth of the matter is, we actually are on a ball. But you've never seen the ball on the outside. So what we've done is we have created a world inside this petri dish, this contact lens that follows the general rules of a ball. We even made sure expanding Earth, which is the way the real ball is on the outside, is the way you see your Earth. And so you have double proof that's the way it worked, even though you suppressed that knowledge. But here's the thing. If you expose this to all of your occupants inside, you blow the experiment. And you can't really integrate with us because we're millions of years old in terms of the science of everything that we do. You wouldn't even recognize a dinner plate if we showed you one. You wouldn't be able to eat our food. The atmosphere that we breathe is a little bit different than yours. So the best you could do is go live in another dome, or we could all have kind of a big kumbaya press release moment where some of us come down with little space helmets on, just like Mars Attack. And you're not allowed to play Orbison while we're here, but we have a little discussion, a little powwow, and it would just mess up everything. So if you could, we've already got it worked out. We've already had contingency plans before we even built the place. We need you to sign a treaty with all the countries of the world, and make sure. By the way, there's been a lot of new countries created since '54, so it would be interesting to know if they all sign on to the treaty once they get created. But we need you to protect this. It's for the good of man that you continue to propagate this idea of a globe. And, the one thing that kind of negates this little fantasy I'm putting together is that, let's say that they say, okay, well, we're going to help you launch a space program that's going to give the illusion. And by the way, if you could launch any sort of fictional shows on TV, fictional movies, we'll provide you with whatever you need monetarily. What do you guys use? You guys are using gold. Okay, we'll give you some gold. It's real easy. We'll get you the money. Maybe these billionaires are like, hey, don't even worry about it. We got it all worked out. But we're not going to give you, 0-point energy systems. We're not going to give you flying saucer technology. You've actually found some of our old vehicles. You see us every once in a while when we come and visit you. Those Greys, well, they're just robots. They're just a robot species we created. They're organic, but, they come and check out things here and there. But you just have to stay inside. Just because. That's where you came from. You're indigenous to what we have provided inside this contact lens. You cannot easily survive outside. Or maybe a bunch of you could, but the majority of you can't. What are we supposed to do with, people who are in the rainforest? They wouldn't even understand if you told them the place was flat. Maybe they're like, yeah, of course. And again, we lived most of our life on this planet thinking it was flat, and it was just God was above, and it was water and what have you. Maybe their whole thing with the stars, the stuff that Dave's recording, is a facsimile of space. But it doesn't exist for us as it does for them because they're actually on the other side of this thing. Could you imagine that? I mean, in all actuality, your globers would be right in that we do live on a ball. It's just massive. It's huge. It has nothing to do with the star that's floating, or the sun that's floating, or the moon that's floating. It's all outside, and maybe you get outside and it's very similar, but it's not the same. But it's all been built as a facsimile of the overall universe that's on the other side of this thing. Can you imagine that a bunch of people that have passed who are scientists or even amazing fictional writers like Michael Crichton, which for some reason, I had like a Mandela effect with Michael Crichton, where I had read, where I thought I'd read that he died at 50, but he died at 66. Once I finally started realizing how old he would have to be to make all the stuff he did in the early 70s, he'd be like a prodigy child. But what if these people are exiting out the dome? Like, you can make it. Come on out here. We'll orchestrate your death there on Earth, but you can come out and chill out. Your fans or your followers or whatever, your family be a little upset, but come on. One of the things I put in my first episode is something I want to throw on you guys as a possibility of a psyop. Now, I've got Flat Earth Psyop. It's a whole episode if you guys want to watch it. If you think about the KGB guy, boy, there's a lot of logic to them doing this just to kind of divide us again. Again, divide up everyone who thinks it's Flat Earth, conquer whichever one is the weakest. And it's always going to be Flat Earth because Popular Science magazine tells you it's a ball. Okay, great. But there was this dude, Picard, back in the early 30s, who built a sphere, hot air balloon, I can't remember offhand how high the guy went. And I think it was about 75,000 feet up. But this dude went up in this thing. This is the story, and you can find it on Wikipedia. You can find photographs of the dude, although it looks like a Hollywood thing. You can see pictures of his ball and the whole thing, right? And the story goes is that he went up in this thing. There's a liquor commercial from Canada that does a beautiful CG version of this thing. I'd cut it in, but it would get copyright striked, and I don't want to do that. But he goes up, and the thing actually spun quite a bit, and then I think it finally calmed down. But when he finally got back down to Earth, he went way, way up in the sky, and then he came down very close to where he took off, relatively speaking, to a spinning globe. And he said that the world was a disc with upturned edges. That's his classic phrase, and that's why a lot of flat earthers go, look, this dude went up, and that's what he said. Now I want to throw this on you here. It is absolutely, positively possible that dude's entire existence, unless you have a relative that knew the guy, was there when it went up. This dude's completely fake. It's possible. And I will give you proof in 1 second. But they could hire an actor, build a prop, render it in CG, act the whole thing out, and even cut and paste other things, who knows, right? And create this dude from scratch, and then that's your point of reference. There's a story about the woman who went to the South Pole, and she got on a snowmobile and went to the edge. She was supposedly convinced this thing was a flat disc, and she then took a camera with her, and the story is like 63 or something like that. She went up there, and then she said she found the edge, took a bunch of pictures, came back to the vehicle, put the camera on the vehicle with a note saying, this is flat, I found the edge, and I'm out of here because I'm going to join the other side. And then she disappeared. And then the people that found the camera said that all the film was overexposed. How convenient, right? She could be fake too. No matter how elaborate the backstory is, these two people could be completely fake, giving you the sense that there's some sort of lineage to this issue. Why do I know this? Well, I used to work at Electronic Arts, the video game company. I believe the dude's name is Neil Young. He runs Zynga right now. He's a genius. In the late 90s, he came up with an idea, which I can't even believe he got greenlit, but the dude was so ahead of his time, it was just crazy. He had seen the X-Files, was a big fan, and he created a video game called Majestic. And for those of you who don't know, Majestic was the name of the first Q clearance project after Roswell's crash. Whitley Strieber wrote a great book about it called Majestic, which you can barely find anymore. I suggest you buy a copy and read it. It's really cool. It's a fun thing. He registers it under nonfiction. Now, what Neil did was he created a video game, and my department had to supply him with a tremendous amount of art resources to create, and coding resources to create his websites. But he bought dozens and dozens of domains. I want to say hundreds, but I don't even know what the total list was. When I went down and met with him, with my artists and producers, it was dozens. And he and I flew to England a couple times, so I got a chance to kind of sit and drink beers with the guy. But the idea was you would sign up to this video game. You buy a box, and it came with very little in it because the whole thing was pretty much on web. And he created a fictional world of fake websites, fake corporations, fake personal websites, which had all kinds of wild, clues and stuff. It's like living in X-Files. But in addition to that, in addition to creating a fake past for all these companies, okay, almost nobody knows this game ever existed. It's a real shame. And the reason why it got canceled was that the day 9/11 happened, the box that we had just delivered to the shelf of this game had a plane going right towards the World Trade Center. I mean, wow. Because he did the same thing X-Files did, started off with aliens, and then changed it to terrorism because they find out the narrative for aliens can go for, it has a limit depending on your writers. I probably could have found a way for him to go longer, but whatever. I trust Neil. But you sign up with this thing, and I think he still had an API for beepers. Definitely had an API for your phone. I can't remember if in 2000 our phones had text messages. I think they did, right? So he had that. He had faxes, and he had emails. But he also had just straight up phone number. And you agreed. You signed a disclaimer online. You said, yeah, I'm willing to do this wild-ass game, which is a life interacting experience, right? And there's a funny story. The VP of games for EA.com was a dude by the name of Chris McKibben, super dude. He was somewhere else. He flew out to one of our other studios to check on him, and he came back to San Francisco. And San Francisco at the time, around 2000, 2001, you would get out of your plane, and SFO was notorious for having bad cell phone reception. So your phone would go dead the second you got off the plane. So you could call out there on the tarmac, but you couldn't make a phone call internally. Your phone would die. Or the signal would die. So he's got his fiance at the time, who's now his wife. He's got tons of kids. He was talking to her, he picked me up. I'm home, I'm here. So she's like circling the airport, waiting for him to get out. And of course, when he hops out of the plane, boom, the phone call's dead. And as he told the story, and this is just ingenious, man, he hits the baggage area or whatever, place where they pick you up, and his phone rings. And of course, it's his wife because he was just on the phone with her. But instead, it was Majestic. But he didn't look at the caller ID or didn't have that feature or whatever it was. But he just picks it up. Hey, honey, what's going on? And now he hears a woman on the other side of the phone screaming bloody murder. She is being attacked, killed. I don't know what the script was at the time. But his heart goes, 90 times faster than it normally does. He is freaking out. And it takes him a few seconds to realize that's probably not my wife's scream. Oh my God, this is Majestic calling me, right? So he was sucked into a false reality as a part of a video game, and it was something we made. And it was a game. I mean, you knew it was a game, so we weren't violating any sort of ethics there. But now imagine take that same game and turn it into the Flat Earth movement. Turn it into the Globe movement. Turn it into anything you want. Fake news. You know we've been living in fake news world probably since the early 60s when Rod Serling did the 1959 interview, which all of you need to see, where he told the guy that was interviewing him, I forgot, it was Dan Rather or Cronkite or somebody super famous back in the day. He told everyone, look, they are doing what he called, this is a genius human being. Rod Serling was like off the hook brilliant. If he had his IQ measured, I don't know, between 165 and 185, somewhere in there for sure. Except he smoked cigarettes too much. Of course, the fake news told him it was good for him, right? But he said there was something called pre-censorship that was starting to happen. And he said that reporters are being hired who believe the dogma that they are about to report. There's no more journalism anymore in these people. And slowly over time, they're going to replace everybody. Of course, we all know about Project Mockingbird, which was in the mid-50s. This alphabet agency purposely did the Hearst Corporation yellow journalism level or deception on a level that no one had ever conceived of. The television was exactly like it is in I Pet Goat 2, feeding the kid's brain. Intense, man. So, let me ask you, your opinion. Somebody proves it's a flat disc. They touch the wall. They go over what we thought was a wall, and it turns into lush tropical worlds, and there's another coast on the other side of the disc. There are a dozen, if not more, gigantic continents full of advanced human beings, maybe even primitive human beings, maybe even real violent human beings, who knows, right? Predators we've never seen, insects that eat you alive, insects that are bigger than us, right? Whatever the case might be. But we're able to prove it. Now, does fake news survive, or does fake news tend to go away? Because we're having a moment of lucidity for all mankind. I mean, the amount of lies we would uncover out of universities alone would immediately reveal itself. All these tenured professors hanging on to Big Bang, black holes, dark matter, it all goes away. Any claim of being able to look deep into space with the Sophia telescope on the 747, which is the Hubble telescope, let's just say that all gets washed out too. It's all been synthesized in a computer It's all been synthesized in a canvas where someone's painting a high-definition image. So you're a glober that has to surrender to flat Earth, let's just say. That would be me. And then everything starts to get more truthful, even if it's truth you don't want to hear. At least it's something different. So, rage. Flat Earth rage. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. You're not wasting your time considering theories that are different than your own. You're just considering a theory that's different from your own. I mean, how many times, let me just give you a little example here. How many times do you see an advertisement for something that you have no interest in when you're scrolling your feed in Instagram, Facebook, whatever, Twitter? Someone's trying to sell you a t-shirt you don't want. Now, let me ask you, how angry do you get to see something you have no interest in? I mean, you might get a little like, God dang it, I hate these stupid advertisements. But, I mean, do you really like take pencil to paper? Do you write a letter or an email to someone? I don't want to see any more of this revenue generating stuff that you have to do to give me this free service. Nah. You just scroll past it. Someone likes Hillary Clinton, you don't like her. You just scroll past it. You're a little disappointed, maybe, because she's evil. Flat Earth? I don't know. I mean, is it really that hard to believe? In our locked Facebook group, we equally represent, and believe me, the moderators know this, and they monitor it specifically to balance the representation of any globe versus flat Earth stuff. And, we approve like dozens of posts every day from people that are globers. And the thing is the weird thing is that your flat earthers, at least that run the page, I don't get any emails saying, oh my God, look at all these stupid globers. No disrespect whatsoever. In fact, when I talked to one of our moderators who's a big flat earther, he very politely asked me, he goes, do you really think it's a globe? And his tone of voice when he asked me, I just thought, what a great person. What a great person, the way he asked me. Because he is completely convinced it's flat, and he's doing his best to come up with experiments to prove it. And I love him for it. It's like, yeah, buddy, you go, man. And I told him, I said, look, you have no idea how much I want you to prove whatever shape this place is. And if it's flat, my God, let's have some fun. In my lifetime, I mean, come on, think about it. You're a big glober. Okay, great. Wonderful. But if you were alive when it was proven to be flat, man, you could tell your grandkids and great-grandkids those stories, depending on where we end up after it's discovered. You would be, part of the old guard. You'd be grandpa, grandma, tell me the day that, where were you when you found out that it was flat? It's like instead of one of those acidic things like where were you when 9/11 happened, where were you when JFK got shot, it would be hopefully not a big disappointment that it's flat, whatever, it is what it is, right? And you would be there to usher in the new era, donate your genetics to the overall sanity of man, re-engineer your own mind. I'm sure the answer would be something like, if you were a glober especially, you'd be like, well, that was a really weird day, but I'm glad to have the truth as opposed to a lie. It took us all, another 10 years to sort of unravel our brains, because we've been taught for however many years you were alive before this happened that it was one way and it was actually the other way. And, the funny thing is, think about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And imagine them going back and grabbing Plato. And I don't really know what that guy believed, but imagine he was a flat earther, because everybody thought it was flat, right? And again, the idea that globe Earth only goes back 500 years is a complete lie. I mean, people believed it was a globe a long time ago. And again, remember, the hieroglyph for year is a sphere with solid color in it, meaning the sun, and the symbol for a month is a sphere with a hollow interior, which is the Earth. And looks like they knew which way it was, or they had a belief it was one way or the other. But anyway, you bring Plato back in a time machine on the day that it's going to be announced that it's flat. And just imagine that guy. He's like, yeah, what did you guys think it was? Oh, we thought it was round. What gave you that idea? Well, okay, sit down, dude. NASA, and you'd have to explain him what the hell that is, right? But he would just laugh, right? If it was flat, he'd just laugh and go, yeah, it's weird that you guys got it all upside down. I mean, did you really feel like you were moving? I didn't, thought it was all, everyone understood, right? So anyway, hopefully this episode was fun and not bad. But if you haven't been to deepthoughtsradio.com, please go. It's highly functional nowadays. The statistics on the site are way up from what they used to be, man. What used to be a record-breaking day is sort of an average day now, so it's cool. So everyone's finding what they want to find. The one thing I don't mention enough is that there is a search field there. So if you are looking for an episode that you don't know exists or you thought you saw a long time ago, just type in a keyword. I will tell you that some words, even for my own searching back on my old episodes, there'll be words that I use differently. So like I was trying to look up an episode for a friend of mine called The Death of Chivalry. And I thought I might have called it Chivalry is Dead. And I called it The Death. So I looked up dead, didn't find it. I was like, that's weird. I'm pretty sure I used that word. So I looked up chivalry and I found death. So if there's a different tense of a word, sorry for that morbid example there, but just try different tenses on the word, but usually you'll find it. Plus there's a category list on the site that keeps everything in nice little, logical bundles. So if you're a moon person, get on the moon missions, right? I don't think it's any surprise that my moon missions are absolutely the most popular videos on this channel. The other one is that the Roswell crash is getting pounded right now. So Roswell is a long time ago, folks. That's season 2. And that thing is up there right now with the best of the episodes in terms of daily views. It's not probably in the top 10 for overall views, but right now it's going to be in the top 10 here in about 6 months if it keeps doing what it's doing here. But there's 2 options for video. I'm now doing a little bit of a longer bumper because there's something coming up here. The December 10th update to YouTube is a big deal. They're trying to say that they're going to cancel channels that aren't commercially viable. Who knows, right? Who knows how they interpret deep thoughts. I don't think there's going to be a lot of human intervention until someone has to petition. So what if you wake up and this channel's gone on YouTube December 10th or 11th or whatever, and then I got to go through a petition exercise with them, which I now have enough views and enough whatever to get actual support, so that's cool. And let's say they turn this back on in a couple days. Because of that, you want to have a BitChute account. BitChute is the competitor to YouTube. It's bitchute.com. But just go to the website, deepthoughtsradio.com, click on it. Do me a favor, okay? If you're on YouTube, and I don't care if you're never going to watch another video of mine, get over to BitChute, create an account. That helps their entire financial model. That helps them prove they've got the viewers, the rate of growth. And if they need to raise money to make it faster, better, whatever, your subscription to their channel, even if you never go back, is very important. They do have an app for everyone's phone and tablet, so definitely get that if you like to watch things on your telephone. Unfortunately, I have not heard of any BitChute for the TV, but again, if they get a lot of subscriptions, it starts taking over. It's a freedom of speech area. It's only 1080p that I've been able to upload. As soon as I do 4K, it never ever encodes it. So, I'm good with that. But there's the 2 links for the podcast. Again, it's pretty generic, but there's one specifically for iTunes, one for Google Play, and one that's just generic. Just get on the device that you like to listen to things on, go to the website, click on it. It'll find the app on your phone that's defaulted for the podcast RSS feed. There are 3 social media outlets at this point. It may change. There's the Lock Facebook group I mentioned. Some of the greatest people on planet Earth in that group. I mean, I love everybody. We haven't had any rebel rousers in a really long time. The other one's Twitter. Twitter's starting to pick up a little bit. People are starting to retweet the episodes, and I do a little bit of tweeting here and there. I just try to have fun, actually. If you look at my tweets, I'm trying to make people laugh or wake up a little bit. But the other one is minds.com, which is a direct competitor with Facebook. It's actually way prettier than Facebook, just to let you know. It's still a white site, but it's really friendly, really beautiful. We have 42 subscribers on there as of right now. I posted up the last probably 5 videos. No one's clicked anything because I don't think anyone's on minds.com, but that's another actual legitimate competitor to Facebook, honestly. And they've got a tipping system and all kinds of good stuff. So it's just a really cool model. I think it's all blockchain based. So is BitChute. I think it's blockchain as well. The other one are methods of donating to the show financially. There's Patreon, which again, if you put $1 in, which you typically get the videos before anyone else gets to see them, plus just a few that no one's ever seen before. I'm going to try to increase that a little bit. Part of it's like if I create a really great video, I don't want to, and no one on Patreon wants me to do this, but, I kind of want to give something special away every once in a while. The other one is PayPal. Some people have given me some direct donations. Super appreciate it. The other two are just products that I want you to have. There's some affiliate link, but again, I've made no money off these things ever. But one of them is the Brave browser. You need to get it. Stop using Chrome. Stop using Firefox. Brave is super fast. It's based on the Chromium kernel. But they don't spy on you. They cut off all the trackers, all the advertisements, all the autoplay videos. It's beautiful. Then you need to change the search engine from Google to DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo right now is getting so popular. It's a little bit slow at the entry in fall of 2019. I'm sure that'll speed up over time, especially as they get more use, because again, they can solicit investors to take on stuff. They don't have any metrics that they track on you. So if you use the Brave browser with DuckDuckGo, you are absolutely living in sort of the equivalent of like a Tor browser. Except they don't necessarily scramble your IP address. But again, that's sort of a gigantic scam, people. But the other one is Backblaze, and I'll just give you the version. They have a $5 version, but it only goes back 30 days. If you give them $7, infinite hard drive space, 2 computers. I mean, everything I use on my laptop and my desktop, and I have certain folders where I'm like, I don't need that in the cloud. I just check them off and they get ignored. It's awesome. But I probably have, again, about 18 terabytes of information on their service. It has saved me several times. It's probably saved at least 4 episodes of this show where something went wrong. I deleted something before I realized it. So definitely get yourself that because it's super powerful. There are no season 1 episodes on this particular channel. The reason why is that I used a bunch of my own music from my collection, which I really love that because that's the way radio stations do it, because they have the infinite license to just put anything in at the beginning of a show. Part of it just exposed a dimension of who I am as a human being, which I really liked. And so I can't do it because YouTube either banned most of the videos, banned them in Europe only, or took all the money. So I was like, screw that. So I've created a whole new channel for that. There's no revenue generation possible because they changed the rules about how to get to that point. So you'll never see any ads. It's just nice. If you just go to the website, everything's on there that you need to see. What I might end up doing is swapping out over winter a lot of the YouTube feeds on the website to BitChute if BitChute tends to settle down and succeed. So we need to get over there and create accounts. So since I've been saying this, we've had, probably a good 10 people go over there right away and make accounts. So be one of those people. Again, you don't have to ever use it. Just get over there and sign up for it. That's all I got for you. So until the next episode, take care of yourself and someone else, and I will see you in the next Deep Thoughts. Over now.